I know that at the conference, one of the terms that you mentioned, which caused a bit of a buzz, was gamification. Mm-hmm. Would you like to elaborate on what that means?
It's simple. If you look, one of the easiest examples, right? If you look at these games, and having 4 children, I've looked at a lot of games over the years. Didn't have to force me too much to look at them, but they actually they do 2 things fundamentally. And it's all still math and science, right, that does this. But one is they actually play themselves if you don't play those games. Mm-hmm. If you leave a lot of these games alone, they'll continue to play, right, because they want to draw you in. They're actually built to think about driving human behavior as much as providing insight. The second thing they do is they lead you down a path. I think the first time we started talking about this, we started looking at the Super Mario game. And if you think about, when you get attacked by something, or this changes, or you go fire on something else, there's a whole bunch of things that happen, but they actually lead a user down a pathway. So rather than saying, I click on this tab and I look at this, and then I have to go click on another tab and look at that, imagine if you had something that actually gave you visually enormous numbers of choices that were related, and then I could drill deeper simply by moving through a path. So I think that's really the idea of a game. It's used in game theory, but it's not just about games. Okay. It's actually ways that apply the human behavior and motivate individuals to do certain things by leading you through a pathway instead of just giving you a bunch of choices on a screen. Mm-hmm. That's the fundamental difference.
Okay. So it's also about making it more intuitive for the user.
Intuitive and intriguing. Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay. I think both those things. Yeah. Yeah.
And then could you give us some kind of practical examples, maybe from what you're developing at the moment in S&P Capital IQ, about how you can apply these new approaches to big data, how you can apply the idea of gamification to products in the financial.
Yeah, we've actually got. I mean, we will have new applications with our new interface starting next year. Probably late in the first quarter, beginning of the second quarter. But the idea is exactly what I've been talking about. This idea of how can I present enormous amounts of innovation on a screen that actually looks and feels like less than you look at today, but which leads you mm-hmm. through a certain way. So it's instead of a lot of text, it's more visual, much more visual, mm-hmm. right? There are different tones, that make it inviting. There's movement in the screens whether you interact with it or not. And a lot of those things, for example, you can even preset to drive that. So it's those same principles that I'm talking about, but applied to financial data. Imagine a 3-dimensional image that lets you compare 10 portfolios at once visually. That's the kind of thing that we're talking about. Or look at a large portfolio with performance statistics intraday through colors. Mm-hmm. So there's a number of things that you can apply that to that then become critical to your interface. But basically what we're looking at is the way to develop a brand new design language that then drives how you look at applications.
Okay.
So it'll be consistent. So we don't want a user to look at one application and have it be a whole set of optics, then look at another application and have it be a whole different set of optics. It'll be a consistent design language. Like, if you look at an iPad, it's a design language.
Yeah.
Or you look at an Android or anything else, there's a certain language and approach they've used to walk a user through their applications.
Okay.